You're listening to Redesigning Reality with Dylan Charles and Jeff Anthony.
We're live. We're alive. All right.
We're alive.
All right. This is Redesigning Reality, the podcast. Thanks for tuning in, people. I am Dylan Charles here with Jeff Anthony. What's up, Jeff? How you doing?
Not much. I'm doing good. Hanging out. Getting ready to go on a trip.
Excellent. Holidays, huh?
Thinking about all the things I need to pack that I could try to leave at various relatives' houses and then write them to mail them to me later.
Yeah, I don't know who's listening to the show, but like when you get to that age where you have kids and your kids are at that age where they need people to hustle them around, man, the holidays take on a whole new level of exuberance. Whew, man. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. So
Especially when you have three of them, like Dylan.
Yeah, three of them in a Chihuahua, and that's one of the excellent features of this podcast is we have Chihuahuas, and sometimes they go berserk and bark and jingle their little jangly bells, Chihuahua jingly bells. And today I have some kids playing in the room above my ceiling here, stomping around, being hooligans, ragamuffins. And so, we're going to transmute and transform and shift all of that into something awesome here coming up right now. Jeff, what's on your mind today, man? What are we going to talk about?
Man, I have so many things on my mind. One thing I have on my mind is I sure haven't packed my bag yet for my trip. And I think that's what we do, right, at this time of year is we start thinking of all the things that we haven't done and that we're going to do and that we need to do. And we were talking about that a bit before we started recording, about cycles and how things, new beginnings and endings. And we were joking about retrogrades and life going backwards, supposedly, and all these funny things. And, and we were talking about emotional states, too, and how your emotional state kind of fluctuates and varies throughout the year and how it'd be nice to know why. If you could if you were, I guess, on it enough that you could keep up with your diet and every single thing that you're putting into your body as far as consumption goes, as far as and I mean all consumption, eating, listening to, and watching.
Thinking.
Then maybe you could thinking, exactly. And you could monitor that stuff and then, balance it all out and stay steady. But I think also, like we were talking about, that's part of the trip, man. That's part of the ride is the little fluctuations and learning from those moments.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for those moments. I'm going through some, personal challenges, nothing serious right now, just a little bit of frustration and stress and whatnot. And man, keeping my mind focused on this type of information, keeping my mind in the game is really helping me to turn that stuff around throughout the day. I'm not an anxious person anymore, but sometimes lately, like a little anxiety's been creeping in, and you can think your way through anxiety, right? You can flip it around in your head, and it goes like this. It goes like, oh, I'm anxious to this. I have a fear, They like to say that depression is uneasiness with the past. Anxiety is uneasiness with the future. So feeling a little bit of anxiety, taking that in the moment, turning that into, or summoning gratitude, thinking about the things that you're thankful for, and then putting your mind in the present moment. Okay, well, this is where I'm at right now. What am I gonna do?
Well, and it helps to realize that none of this is really happening. It's just it's a projection of the mind, right? So I tell people the same thing. Anytime when you're looking at the past, overwhelmingly the past is sad, right? You look back at the mistakes you made and the relationships that you lost and the money you lost and all these kinds of things. And then projecting to the future is absolutely, like you said, I call it stress, you call it anxiety. It's the same thing. Anxiety causes stress, stress causes anxiety. They go hand in hand.
Right.
And it's future projecting, right? And you don't know what's going to happen there. You're 99% wrong 99% of the time. And when you get there, it's almost laughable. And I think those are the moments where you have that awareness that you've been doing that and that the things worked out way better than you suspected it would or projected that it would. And that's a moment of solace, right? To take that time and realize, hey, man, if I can stay right here, like right here, be grounded in who, what, and where I am now, I'm going to get myself to that thing when I need to be there, but I don't need to be there now, kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. You had mentioned retrograde, and I thought of how nice it would be to have crutches like astrology, to just be like, well, shit's in Mercury's in retrograde. I'm just gonna kick back and ride it out with a tub of bonbons and expect everything to clear up on its own here shortly. No. It's not how it works, bro. It's not how it works at all, man. Active transmutation of the craziness in this life, man. Because this world, man, it's a difficult world, for everybody. I mean, like the guys on the street who are suffering with the addictions and homelessness and all this crazy shit down there, they're in their own set of pain, But the guys in the mansions, the guys that, the want mores, the have mores, those guys, they're in their own kind of pain too, man. They can never have enough power. They can never have enough things. They can never have enough cars in the garage. They can never have enough control. They can never have enough safety in the bank in the form of digits in a bank account, man. So, I think that's the human condition, man, is to always be mindful of where your suffering comes from, how to turn that into positive action, how to turn that into living well. Because, revenge, the best revenge is living well, Jeff.
It is, and it's funny. You said a funny word there, crutches. I have a friend right now who's on crutches. He just had surgery to repair his ACL. Ouch. And, and it's funny you just said ouch, because my thought process of where I'm going with that is, when we're really literally physically on crutches, you want to be off of those things, right? You'll do anything you can as fast as you can to put that situation behind you. But totally. Why would people have a mental crutch, right? They want to hold on to that thing for as long as possible and milk it and juice it and roll around with it and get all lovey-dovey. I don't understand that. And it's because we tend to avoid physical pain. And I know that my buddy's knee is on fire. I know it doesn't feel good right now. And I know he wants to be off those crutches and just walking again. And it's a great metaphor for the situation we're talking about right now, and how, get off the crutch. Don't use this thing as an excuse to stay mentally stuck or trapped.
Yeah, I think for me, like, my crutches have always come in the form of substance abuse, Speaking for myself personally, and I see it different with everybody, right? Everybody's got their thing that they do. A friend of mine retreats into cycling. I mean, you can argue that one's better for your health or whatever, but when somebody runs away from life by cycling all the time, like it's a form of a crutch. It's a runaway. It's a mechanism to avoid the pain of whatever is going on. Like whatever it is that's not working for you. So historically for me, I think that I've always turned to like alcohol and other drugs, especially like cannabis and stuff, in order to just kind of fall into that like dopamine high and just be like, okay, cool, well, I'm good for now. But man, those things tend to build up. Those things tend to gather steam when you don't. These things they catch up. They using the metaphor of a crutch, they tend to prop you up more and more before you realize that you're totally dependent on these damn things.
Right, and you're just setting yourself up for a fall, and. Yeah, and it spills over when you try to bottle things up and hold them in. They end up spilling over into all these other areas of your life: financial, family, spiritual practice. All these things start to fall by the wayside, or you start to act out because your frustration isn't being. You got to have this little pressure valve where you let a little off and control that situation. And I find that a lot of help in my personal life has come through communication and being able to trust my partner and my wife and be able to talk to her and tell her how I'm feeling instead of trying to push feelings down and anger and frustration, because then they just come out at the wrong time in the wrong situation with my children, with her, with other things that are just, it looks like some minimal thing to the outside observer, but you realize you're losing it because you have all this bottled up anxiety and stuff going on.
Yeah, I have a tendency, and I've noticed this recently, like I have a tendency to really bottle things up and, not want to admit to other people that I'm not happy or doing well or whatever you want to call it, or that I'm not doing totally awesome. And so I've seen that recently. And once again, awareness is curative, right? Just being aware of something is a way to cure yourself. And been noticing that quite a bit lately. Yeah, what am I scooping up and holding on the inside, man? And how's it coming out? And it comes out kind of in strange ways. It pretty common to come out and like resentment towards other people, envy, jealousy, like this whole 7 deadly sins kind of program. When your mind and the operating system that you're running on isn't clean and running smoothly, it's tends to start adopting those sins, those other patterns, those other destructive, thought programs and thought worms and all that crazy stuff that just breeds more of the same. And so then you find yourself, like you said, like setting up for a fall, because if you let your vibration get too low for too long, man, that fall definitely is forthcoming. And so I don't know, man. I don't know. Where's this conversation going? What are we really talking about today, man?
Well, it's funny because as you were saying that, I think about fight or flight, right? Like, are you in fight mode? Are you starting to attack all these people and attack all these things because you're upset? Or are you in flight mode, like you talked about with your buddy? Are you going to go cycle it off and run away and just try to ride your bike until, the dawn of a new day? I don't think so. The same thing's going to be there tomorrow that was there today. And so I think we're talking about cycles. I think we're talking about emotions, and I think we're talking about how to address all that stuff and try to live more balanced.
One of the physical practices that I do pretty regularly, and I've taught it in the past and studied it at length, is Qigong and Tai Chi. And they're physical movements, physical postures and forms and stuff that you do with your body. But the philosophy of it is the philosophy of balance, of cycles, of motion and counter motion, of ebbing and flowing, advancing, withdrawing, but basically honoring both sides of that coin, honoring the fact that nature is cycle, right? Nature is cyclical. And so here we are, like we just had, where I'm at in North Carolina, we just had like 11 inches of snow, and it's mid-December, right? So there's your cue, like something's shifted. We're now into winter time. Within the last 3-4 weeks, all the leaves on the trees have fallen and kicked right into snow. So everything has those cycles, Mr. Jeff, and it doesn't seem to me like I grew up. I don't recall growing up, paying too great attention to this. I don't recall really learning too much about how the natural order of the world in school or any of the education stuff, and it certainly wasn't a philosophy that my parents really worked on with me. But if you go against these cycles, if you ignore these cycles, if you're just if you're just absentmindedly uncognizant of these cycles, then they can really wallop you pretty good.
Absolutely, and it's really interesting because we were talking about the die-off, right? This is like the die-off. It's all the leaves are brown. Everything's on the ground. You look up, a tree looks like a skeleton. But, I mean, we go through these same cycles. And if we don't address them and recognize them, then what's the point, right? And in the spring, everything's going to come back anew. And there's going to be beautiful flowers, and the grass will be stronger, and the tree will have new growth. And that's what's happening to us right now, too. Like going through these ups and downs, these cyclical events like you were talking about. If you address those and you stay focused and stay in the now, all of a sudden in the future, where you don't need to project your mind to, but you'll see that the things happen less frequently, right? Or you start to see the buildup before it happens, or even embrace it because you realize, hey, this is going to be another growth period for me, and I'm going to become stronger because of this thing I'm going through right now.
It's frustrating, though. I mean, it can be frustrating.
Believe me, man, I all the time think, when do I get to stop forgiving? I feel like sometimes I was put on this planet just to learn forgiveness and forgiving other people. And man, I've cried at night and told Aaron, why do I always have to be the one to forgive? Like, why do these things keep happening? And I have to forgive these people. And then it reminds me that I have the capacity to do it, right? Yeah. And that I'm the one that's growing by realizing that I need to let these things go.
Well, you do know that forgive is a 4-letter word, right?
What?
It's a 4-letter word. It's that saying that in our culture it has a negative context in a way, right?
Well, yeah, I get it. I get where you're going with that now.
There's a certain I don't know if it's this patriarchal kind of society that we live in, or the man culture. I don't know what it is, man. There's but the concepts of forgiveness and weakness and softness and stuff, they don't really like jibe too much with the American bravado, but that's what winter is. That's what fall is. It's the softening. It's the decay. It's the lessening of power. It's the downward slope. So forgiveness, though, is it's to a lot of people it's impossible. Like people don't understand like to what it means to forgive and how to forgive, and actually like what the good of forgiveness is. And
that's sad because they stay so embroiled in their battle. And it's an internal battle. It's a battle with themselves. People, you have children, I have children. What's the hardest thing for a child to start learning to do? To admit fault, right? To admit that they've done something wrong to their brother or their sister or to some animal or thing. Right. It's always, I didn't do it. They did it. And it's always finger pointing. And something that I figured out through my process of turning my life around is, shame on you is blame on me. And, or blame on you is shame on me. It goes both ways. And when you blame others, you shame yourself. And when you're blaming people for the position you're in and where your life has ended up, it's absolutely false. I mean, all along the road, all down the road of life, there's all these different points that you've had to make a choice or decision about how you're going to allow something to affect you or not. And we've talked about this many times before. It's all about choices, right? And granted, sometimes things happen that were out of your control, a car accident or whatever. That's why it's called an accident. But are you going to blame yourself? Are you going to shame yourself? Are you going to hold on to that thing? Or are you going to go, man, just claim it on your insurance, get the thing fixed, and move on with your life? And, many times your car gets totaled, you get a better car. It's kind of another great metaphor for life. Hopefully no little children fall through Dylan's ceiling onto his lap while recording. We might get a lot of views if that happened though. But anyway, the point is, sometimes there's damage done to physical property or yourself in a situation, but nothing is beyond being fixed. You're still here, you're still breathing. You can make a better choice and you can forgive yourself. And that's the kind of forgiveness that I struggled with the most. It was easiest for me to maybe let it go with other people. Totally. But man, letting things go that I had done, or my own self-talk, and forgiving myself and stopping to beat that's tough.
Yeah, that's the ultimate. It's the ultimate, like self-forgiveness, self-love, self-care. Whew. Shit, who's got time for that? Who understands that? Who who knows anything about that? I realize this is kind of it's kind of a soft topic, but man, it's nourishing because, like when the winter changes, you in the past, we've always changed our diet as well with these cycles, based on where you're at, what kind of food's available, seasonal foods available, it's totally different environment. So we're pulled in so many ways out of the natural order, the natural cycles of life on this planet. And, like really when the winter comes, when the fall comes, that is a time to turn inward. That's when the bear hibernates, right? That's when, go inside, sit by the fire, really reflect, go deeply inward, consume different types of foods, so, but, feeling very much the need right now to, kind of like tune out of some of the narratives and some of the stories and some of the ongoing, cultural, societal dramas and bullshit that never stop, and feeling that need to kind of draw inward and be like, okay, cool. Well, now's a great time to clean my own house.
Literally, because there's so many kids around making a mess too. And it's funny because we've been doing that. We're getting ready to go out of town. My wife and I were saying, man, we got to get on top of this house this week because when we come home, it's going to be like 3 days until Christmas. We don't want to come home to a dump and a wreck. So let's clean this place up. Let's, focus in on our lives and where we want to be when we get back here. So it's interesting that you said that. I mean, at some point, you got to get off the TV, the social media, all the stuff. And because, all that stuff will drag you down too. And yes, I'm concerned with the things going on in the world. But Is the world concerned with the things that are going on with me? And you have to take that moment to think about that kind of stuff and address your personal life. Does it really matter if Al Franken groped somebody's butt or boob? He didn't touch you, man. Like, let's get on with it, And this whole thing where people are pulled so far in the extreme. We were talking about that earlier. If a Republican did it, the Democrats say he's the most horrible person on the world. And then if a Democrat did it, the Democrats are like, oh, we should let it go. It's not like you rape somebody, and vice versa, So, and I think, like you said, at some point you got to address your own house. You got to clean your house, get off the Facebook, get out of the news feed, get out of the culture, because you get this thing called culture shock, and culture shock, I think, is misused a lot. People think, oh, you go from Costa Rica to the United States and you have culture shock. Well, yeah, but culture shock too is like the shock that you get from just how perverse and weird our culture has become,
It can be quite shocking. Yes, there's zero doubt about that, and quite honestly, if a kid did fall through the roof, that's shocking. It's something the internet would crave, right? The internet craves destruction and pain.
Million views. Million views in 30 seconds.
Oh my God, man. What a strange place the internet is. And it's kind of, it's kind of ironic because we're publishing this stuff on the internet, but I think in my case, I'm in a little different situation than you because I work on a blog, wakingtimes.com, and my professional life is online, soaking up this information, and so my perspective is a little different. I've been watching these narratives for years and years and years unfold, and man, they never go anywhere. Nothing ever gets solved. No truth is ever universally recognized. Nobody ever. And so what I'm left with is that, okay, this is going to go on forever. It's going to go on forever. But you can find truth within you, right? You can sit down, you can turn on the fireplace, and you can kick back with your loved ones over the holidays, and you can find that peace and truth and forgiveness and strength and stuff to push through onto the next chapter, the next cycle of your life. But you're not getting any guidance in that regard from the mainstream narrative. You're not getting any guidance for that from the alternative news. You're not getting any guidance for that from your Facebook feed or anything, really. None of that stuff is designed to help you understand yourself more,
Absolutely. And I think it's great. Every time you say something, it kicks off another thought in my mind. I guess Perfect. That's how this is supposed to work.
Yes.
But over the weekend, my wife and I, like I said, a good buddy of mine just had surgery, and he's on crutches, and he's more than on crutches. He's in a bed right now because he just had this knee surgery. And I told my wife, it'd be really awesome is what if I cooked a giant brisket for my buddy, and him and his wife didn't have to, or girlfriend didn't have to worry about food for their 3 kids and all this stuff, and that could feed them for a week. So we had bought this outdoor fireplace. I checked the weather forecast. It was going to be sunny and really cold, but sunny. And I thought, hey, it would be really fun. We'll get some marshmallows. We'll put together the fireplace. We'll grab their kids and have them over, and we'll feed them all day, and then we'll cook all day, and then take the kids back and take them the brisket and stuff. And it was talk about something that pulled me out of a funky place, and a lot of my stress and anxiety about this trip coming up was just being outside, man. The sun was out. It was blue skies. Yeah, it was not warm at all, but the fire was warm. Being with my children and my wife was really awesome. And more than that, doing something for someone else, right? Serving someone else instead of my own needs or wants was awesome, man. I'm not going to lie, I sliced a few slices of the brisket off to give it a good try, just because I was trying to, quality control. Oh, yeah. But seriously, it was such a nice thing to do that. And you were talking about the whole, when the season change, we eat different foods, and it's so true. And so many people, they get down on themselves because they gain a few pounds over the holiday. You're supposed to, man. Bears gain weight to hibernate, Yeah. So you're eating hearty foods. You're, drinking some eggnog or some good winter ale or whatever, and in the springtime, you're going to get all those awesome fruits and vegetables and stuff again. And you're going to slim down and trim down and go swimming and be on your bike and all that good stuff. And instead of judging the situation, just accept it and enjoy it. I love a good shepherd's pie. I love a good hearty bowl of stew in the winter. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think, man, there's so much pressure to be perfect, to live perfect, to feel good all the fucking time, man. Maybe I'm just speaking for what's going on in my own mind, man. Maybe I put a lot of pressure on myself to just feel good and be happy and be in a good mood as much as possible, But, man, it's one of the things I love about talking to you, Max. It's just like, whatever, just be fucking real, because so many people out there putting on fronts, putting on airs, acting like something that they're not, man. And that's the kind of thing that when I do, man, that's the kind of thing that bottles up and really starts to fuck with me, So lots of pressure to.
I went through a long period of that too, dude, where, I told my wife one time, this is before I wrote the book, I said, I'm sick of being a liar. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, people always ask me how I'm doing. I'm always like, great, I'm doing great. Everything's fine. And it was bullshit. I was angry. I was depressed. I was sad about my situation. And it wasn't until I decided, you know what? I'm not going to be the constant complainer. I'm not going to be the one telling the world about my problems. But I'm going to check in with myself, right? If somebody's like, hey, how you doing, man? I can be like, hey, I'm good. Not, hey, everything's perfect and great and snappy and beautiful. No, I'm good. And because when you kind of give it that little twist, I'm good, people are like, hey, man, what's going on? And when somebody does that, they've opened a window or a door, an opportunity for you to kind of express yourself and share a little bit about what's going on,
Man, that's so important too. I really feel like you have to intentionally do that. You have to open yourself. You have to invite vulnerability in a little bit, in order to maintain that balance in your life, right? But for me, like with what I'm going through right now, man, I just have been. It's nothing major. It's nothing serious. Just ebbing and flowing cycles, coming and going and changing. But I've been very reluctant to say anything to anybody. Very much like, I'll put the lid on that shit and keep moving forward. You know what I mean? And so I can tell though it's not serving me well. I feel it. It's not helping me out, and it's creating more problems than are necessary, right?
Absolutely. And you and I are from Texas, and you know this. What do Texans say? What do the dudes all say to each other? Suck it up, right?
Get her done. Suck it up and get her done, boys.
Don't be a wuss, And I mean, dude, that's so antiquated. That's such stupid advice, Yeah. I get it, and I get it in some situations. Man, you got to plow forward, okay? But in the majority of situations, you better analyze where you're at. I mean, if you're driving your car and you look in your rearview mirror and you see smoke, you better stop and not plow forward, because your engine is going to burn up because you need oil. And we're a great metaphor for that too, man. What do you need? What's going on? Who do you need to talk to? What do you need to let out? Is your engine smoking? And it's funny because earlier you said something about this kind of being a soft topic and the concept of forgiveness and all that, and how do you address these things, and who knows what to do. And I remember that on my path. I remember going to all these ceremonies and talking with shamans and healers, and man, every one of them told me I needed to forgive. And if you're a religious person, you go to church, your minister, your pastor, your priest, they're going to tell you forgiveness is the key. Forgive. But who really knows how to do that? And part of what I developed through writing my book was, man, acceptance is the first step to forgiveness. If you haven't accepted who, what, and where you are, and the things that have happened to you in your past or present, you can't forgive those things, because you're fighting a battle that you've already lost and you're never going to win. The next is to surrender to what is. These things already happened, yet you're still engaged in a battle that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 minutes ago, whatever it is. And once you can do that, once you can accept what's happened, surrender to what is. You get this really neat moment of clarity. And that clarity points you in the direction of the thing that you need to forgive. And forgiveness is nothing more than letting go. And that's how you get onto the love and the harmony and living in the place that you want to be.
You know, like regarding the thought that this is a soft topic, yeah, man, you can't brute force your way through everything. You know, that reminds me of Sun Tzu, The Art of War, right? You know, the way to defeat my opponent is not necessarily the frontal attack, right? You got to let these guys go run their course and run all over the countryside and, you know, spend all of their energy and use up all their food and, you know, like burn up all their firewood and exhaust themselves chasing you as you withdraw and you know, so there's other ways, there's softer ways to win battle, to conquer struggles, right?
For sure. We talked about the way of the peaceful warrior in one of our past shows, the Dan Millman book, and how I think you were the one saying, what was the mantra again? Some take no shit, something.
Do no harm, take no shit.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that is a fine balance. And my son, you know, he likes this book called Three Samurai Cats, and there's this rat called Nekoroshi, and Nekoroshi is like tormenting the palace, and they hire these samurai cats, excuse me, to get rid of Nekoroshi. And what they do is, instead of fighting Nekoroshi, they let him just eat all he wants and eat and eat and eat until he's so fat they just roll him right out, right? Like he can't even fight anymore. So it's a great metaphor. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but I tend to learn through metaphor. I tend to teach through metaphor. And I think it's an easy way to visualize situations. And it's exactly what we're talking about. Sometimes you don't need to go attack something, and sometimes you don't need to run away. Sometimes you need to just stand and face it and observe it and watch and see what's going to happen with the situation. And all of a sudden, a solution pops into your head, or I don't know, maybe it doesn't. You need to observe a little more. But fight or flight isn't always. It's not just those two extremes. You know, there's middle ground in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's where intelligence comes in, right? You know, intelligence over strict instinct. You know, Nekoroshi, I like that name, Nekoroshi.
Right?
Nekoroshi. It's a good name. Yeah. Yeah, I see this coming up quite a bit in conversation these days, this idea of toxic masculinity, this idea that masculinity, there's something, whatever, I'm going to call bullshit on all that. But I will say that being a man is a whole lot of like strength and softness. You know, thinking about this, like when I get off this conversation here, I got to roll up to jiu-jitsu, and you know, I'm going to be on the mat rolling with some guys, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be really challenging. It's going to be painful. It's going to be pretty badass. You know, so in the idea of balance, in this whole thing of cycle of honoring, you know, both sides of the yin and yang, if you will. Yeah, man, it's good to be able to express yourself in softer ways. As well. It's good to be able to acknowledge, hey man, I need some help, or hey man, I need some support, or you know, hey man, like I feel like I'm bottling shit up. I feel like I'm trying to brute force, you know, some challenges that I'm up against, and I need to just clear my head, man. Let's go powwow and just shoot the breeze about it for a while, you know.
Well, we've talked about that before, you know, pushing the river, or you know, pushing something away. When you push, it pushes back harder, and it's funny because you were talking about jiu-jitsu, and I started thinking about how you putting your ass out there on the line to get your butt kicked is your form of self-love, right? Because
absolutely.
Isn't that weird? All right, I'm going to go get my ass kicked tonight because I know I'm going to feel good tomorrow. It's weird, but it's self-love. It's you. But isn't it hard though too? Like, don't you sometimes have those moments of, man, I'm going to be sore tomorrow. Oh, yeah. And I might take one in the snot locker today. That's not going to feel too good. But
all the time.
At the same time, when you go and the class is over, those dudes that you've been rolling with, they appreciate you, right? You all shake hands or probably even hug sometimes and be like, yo, dude, that was awesome, you know? And
totally, yeah.
It's really cool because it builds it builds camaraderie. It's building your self-esteem. And like I said, it's Dylan and many other people with the twisted mentalities form of self-love. I'm just kidding.
Yes. No. I mean, it's probably not too far from the truth. I mean, it definitely takes a willingness to step in the fire. I mean, because, it's one of those things where you get into a situation and literally a person has their hands on you in a certain way that they could kill you, right? Like you're as close as you can get to being killed by another human being as you want to get, really. And so that's humbling, right? What are you going to do now that you've been forced to submit? Okay, please, I'm done. Submit. What are you going to do? Well, 99% of the people, they just leave and never come back, And so, yeah, maybe we're one of that brutal, weird 1%. But yeah, I go back because it I don't know, man. It's hard to explain, but I like to go back. I go back just to find out if I can come face to face with that fear again, and then walk through that fear, And then the other aspect of it is the sense of losing time and space, being in the flow of something so totally encompassing that everything else just completely vanishes for however long you're in that space.
I do, and I've been there. I played contact sports, and it's making thinking about jiu-jitsu. It reminds me of playing football. I remember it's a battle of will, right? At the beginning of the game, everybody's full of energy and hyped up, and the band's playing, and you run out on the field, and you're like, I'm going to do all these things. And then you get across from the guy across the line from you, and he's really talented, and he's really good, and you're not able to do the things that you did last game against the guy that wasn't as good as this guy. And it becomes this game of strategy, but it also becomes this mental game of, am I gonna make it through this? Am I gonna last? Am I gonna outlast this person? Who has the stronger will? And if you persevere and you push through, eventually, you can start to dominate that other player. And that's how big plays start to happen in the end of football games. It's why, there's people that have that, they call it killer instinct, right? Because they realize that, hey, I may not get you now. I may not get you in the first, second, third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, I'm gonna persevere. And it's funny because that's where we are again. We're in the fourth quarter of the year here. We're literally, they call it the fourth quarter. It's the end of the year. Everything's coming to a close, and here we are dealing with all these mental issues, physical issues, spiritual issues. And trying to plan how we're going to game plan for the next year. And it's really interesting. And at the same time, it's frustrating and it's exasperating. And you get to that point where you realize, hey, next year, I don't necessarily want to be exactly in this situation. And I think, you would agree with this. You're not. I mean, I know right now you're going through some funny little funky stuff, but man, you're in a way better place at the end of this year than you were at the end of last year when you just had moved to North Carolina. You're just trying to get settled. You didn't know what you're going to do. And now you have all these awesome plans on the horizon that I get to be a part of as your friend. So I have inside information, but, speak on that for a sec, Yeah,
I mean, it is the fourth quarter. It is like the time where you have to accept any defeats that you've incurred in the year. Just be like, okay, I lost it. I lost this here. I lost that there. I lost that there. Am I out of the game, or am I pushing through, man? And so kind of listening to you talk, this conversation's kind of picking me up, man, because now I'm kind of like, well, it's 2 weeks until, just 2.5 weeks until the end of the year. Maybe I'll just coast and laugh as much as possible and sit by the fire and fatten up a bit and just have a good time playing with my kids, man, because I've noticed lately in my life, like the thing that helps me to deal with stress, the thing that I feel most happy doing is like doing cool stuff with my kids, man. And that's a good sign.
That's what it's all about, man. That's why we do all this work, man. I mean, I know you're an awesome dad. I know that's the way I feel. I live my life. It's funny. You transition at some point where you realize that you're not just living this life for you anymore. I'm doing all this stuff so that I can be a good provider and I can be a good example. And, it feels good. And here we are. We're recording our last show for the year because I'm going to be out of town, and then it's going to be Christmas. And then I know we're not going to get this cracking off again until the new year, because we're going to be building Legos and riding scooters or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, it is good. It's good. It's good to take a break, man. It's good to take a breather, get a little pot belly, and enjoy the fire and roast a marshmallow.
Yeah, last year, man, I put on some pounds for the holidays. I went from 7 years living in Costa Rica and eating like a really just a really healthy diet of lots of fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff, and then coming here and being exposed to like all these awesome restaurants. Oh my God, man, the food scene here is outstanding, and yeah, it was but man, I've been taking really good care of myself this year, and so now I'm kind of in a situation where it's the end of the year. I'm seeing things. Some of the things I've put together this year have really worked out. Some of the things aren't working out the way I hoped. Some of the things that are coming up I'm unsure about. Some of the things are frightening me. Some of the things I'm really, really excited about. And so now it really seems like I'm in the fourth quarter, and it's a test of willpower, right? And I've heard people use the term willpower fatigue, and maybe I've felt that a few times in recent days. Been like, you know what? I just want to fucking give up, man. I just fucking want to give up, But no, man, I talk to you about this kind of stuff all the time, online and offline. And, man, just to get that reset, just to bounce back into that higher vibrational zone, man, where we know we can operate from, man, is like, it fills up your spirit, fills up your willpower, fills up your whole bucket with goodness, man. So.
And it fills up an hour of podcasting too, because we have awesome things to talk about that everyone else, everybody that's listening to the show, whoever you are, is going through it in some way, right? And I think that's the coolest thing about doing the show with you too, is we finally took our private conversations public, right? We've been talking about this stuff together for freaking years now, and it's why when you had the idea, hey, I want to do this podcast, who would I do it with? Oh, I had to deal with that knucklehead that I already freaking talk about all this crap with anyway. So, here we are. But
from one knucklehead to another.
There it is. We're still learning. We're still banging our head against the brick. So but at the same time, that's what I love about our show, is it is real. It's a deep dive into reality. And I know sometimes, Dylan gets these awesome ideas of catchy things to say about, I can't even say it. It's a mastermind of human development. And it is, but we're not masterminds. It's
a mastermind, not hosted by two masterminds. But hey, man, give yourself some credit, though, man.
Together,
yeah.
We have a mastermind. That's right. So I got I'm half a master. You're half a master.
There you go.
So together, it's a mastermind. So no, but seriously, it is good fun, and it is exciting, and I'm with you. I mean, I think everybody goes through that. You can't know what the future holds. You don't know if all these things that we've been working on personally are going to take off or not. And I know that's some of the anxiety and stuff that you're talking about when you do this thing where you look at the camera like that. I'm like, oh, Dylan's looking at me right now. And I have that inside information, but we both have the insight too of, man, we've put in a lot of work. We've put in our time, and the universe is, I feel like the universe is fair, and if you put in the effort and you have good intentions in your heart, good things will happen, You
can help it. You can help things along the way too, man. Back to the idea of willpower, man, there's a lot of things you could do to build and fortify your willpower. I remember reading a book on Zen Samurai practices a long time ago, and it was talking about how these guys used to go every night before they went to bed. They would stare into the mirror, look into their own eyes for minutes at a time while repeating the mantra, I command you to have a powerful will. I command you to have a powerful will, while they're staring themselves down unblinkingly. And then with that message, that vibration in their consciousness, that's when they would retire to sleep, and wake up in the morning just that much more powerful. But there's there's lots of things you can do, you know. I think people tend to look at willpower as a struggle between, you know, deciding whether or not they're going to eat these cookies, or, you know, 6 cookies instead of 8, 4 cookies, especially this time of year. But no, I mean, back to things like jiu-jitsu and stuff. I mean, I really love these practices, especially, like I said, like Tai Chi and Qigong, man. They explicitly, you know, concentrate and develop your willpower, especially a practice like Qigong. Super powerful in terms of, like, there's, I mean, maybe, I'm sure you've seen like the photos of the Shaolin monks and stuff doing all these crazy weird headstands and stuff, and, like, you know, balancing on one finger, or, you know, doing you know, like dangling by their legs and, like, filling up water buckets and stuff, you know. But that's it. That's the practice. I mean, you do physical exercises to strengthen the metaphysical will, you know.
For sure, because it takes dedication, it takes repetition, and yet again, here we are in cycles. This is nothing more than a repetition. How many winters? You know, the Indians and Native Americans, that's how they talked about time, right? The winters, and how many winters they had passed. And it's interesting because that idea of winter is, you know, it's the death of your day. It's the death of the year. And when you were talking earlier about this is like the soft time of the year, it's funny because the reason I'm heading to Texas, I know we've talked about our grandmothers passing away, but now sadly my grandfather has passed away too. And it was really interesting when we were having my grandmother's memorial. It was sunset, and we were up on top of this hilltop in Texas on my grandfather's ranch, and man, you could see for miles and miles, and the sun was setting, and my grandfather started talking about how my grandmother called that her soft time of the day, right? Because everything softens up. The light gets softer. The edges of everything get kind of, you know, the heat and everything in Texas, it's kind of wavy, and you can't really pull hard focus on anything because it's just it's soft, and it's the death of the day. It's the end time, and it's a time of reflection. And that's what he was saying. This was always your grandmother's soft time of the day, and she always called it that. And it was a time that she would use to renew herself for the next day. And, you know, the most amazing thing that I could share with you guys is that the journey never stops. You know, my mom told me this story about my grandmother a year ago. So she was 93 when she would pass away. So let's go back a year. She's 92 years old. And my mom goes over to her house, and at her breakfast table, there's this book about personal development, right? And my mom was like, "Hey, Mom, what's this book you're reading?" And she was like, "Oh, it's so great. There's all these great things about how to, you know, talk to your inner self, and all these exercises you can do to grow your patience, and all these things." And my mom was like, "Mom, you're an awesome person," to my grandmother. "You're an awesome person, and you already have all these abilities and skills." And my grandmother looked at my mom and said, "You can always learn another one." So it's a great message for how, you know, the journey for wisdom never stops, and we're always developing. We're always growing. At 92 years old, my grandmother's reading a book about personal development, and
that's awesome.
It's awesome, dude. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I mean, it made me just now almost start to cry, because it's man, what an amazing example to have in my life. Those people really showed me a path and a strong will, like you were talking about, and a desire to just keep growing and being better.
Yeah, because I'm going through a phase right now, a cycle right now of kind of a return to my own, like, roots of awakening. You know, definitely I went through something 10, 12, 15 years ago that I basically went on a spree to absorb as much information and try out as many things as possible to discover who I really was, and got pretty far with that, and then things were going really well. And now I find myself kind of like, okay, cool. Well, there's a lot more out there that I need to understand about who I am, what I need to be doing, how I need to carry myself in this world. And so I've been absorbing more and more, I've been reading more and more and stuff. And I think there was a point recently where I definitely was kind of like, okay, well, you don't really know that much. You know what I mean? Like, you may think you do, and you've done a pretty good job of coasting through life, and you've made a lot of great friends and family and relationships and done a lot of amazing things. But man, there's still so much you don't know. You know, and I think
you don't know what you don't know, right? That's what they say. And I tell my son all the time, no matter how much you know, you could be the smartest man in the world. You could be Stephen Hawking, read every single thing. And guess what? You haven't even scratched the surface of the knowledge that's out there.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going through another cycle of input, you know, filling my brain and my spirit with, conscious information, stories, examples. One of my favorite things to read is biographies. Love biographies. So many stories of amazing people that have come and done their thing and left this world, you know. So if you think you know it all, you're fooling yourself. You're definitely fooling yourself. And so I think coming up in for 2018, God, 2018, that sounds crazy, bro. 2018. All this talk, man. 2020 is like right around the corner. Holy crap. Pretty soon,
it's wild, man.
Pretty soon Haley's Comet will be back around, you know.
No, dude, we're going to have flying cars like next week. Remember when we were in high school in the early 90s? Oh, dude, by 2020, you're going to have a flying car.
Dude. Self-driving car maybe, but all that shit's in the works, man. Things are changing super fast, but coming up in 2018, yeah, I don't know what the future holds, but I know that the more good stuff I pack inside of myself, the better the future's going to be.
Absolutely. And the more synchronicities that will unfold and happen right in front of your eyes, and the more you realize that I always tell people life is happening to you, right? You're just here to enjoy the ride and observe it all. And yes, you can have subtle influence, very subtle influence, but it really is just your perspective and how you choose to view and think about things. Because life is happening, man. We're all, like you say, I like your I don't have it all memorized, that we're all in these meat suits, strapped to a projectile.
Carl Sagan, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is our starship, you know, and people forget that because you get here and you're looking at the snow in your neighbor's yard and the tree with no leaves, and you forget you're on a giant spaceship and you're hurtling through space, and you're covering massive amounts of territory that you can't even fathom, and your body's doing all these functions at the same time too, and we're all perfect, we're all just where we need to be and functioning on this planet. If we could all just take our perspective and shift it a little bit, we would realize that life is happening to us, and so many times opportunity and life is trying to get in, and we're the ones barring the door and keeping things out. And when you can, let loose a little bit of that string, that strict hold that you want to have on life of control, that's when the synchronicities, really, really happen.
Man, listen. I got to admit something here. Listening to you talk, I'm thinking to myself, man, it's been way too long since I've had a good mushroom journey. Because I mean, all right, mushrooms. It's a medicine that's been around forever, right? And so the scientists and whatnot, they're doing their work and they're studying it, and some of the governments are kind of softening their policy about it or whatever. But I mean, the substance does something amazing to the human psyche. And I think one of the things it does is it opens up and helps you to experience in a moment, helps you to experience all that what you just said, that really like helps you to understand your place in this whole wheel of turning. Man, it's so easy, like the way humans are built, the way the psyche is constructed, the way the ego is there, the way the subconscious, absorbs things and hides things and plays tricks on you and stuff. It's so easy to really just dislocate your understanding of, dislocate the center of the universe, like put it inside of you somewhere, put the center of the universe into your own brain here somewhere. That's really not where the locus is. You're really orbiting it. You're not, it's, nucleus, you know what I mean? So hearing all that stuff that you just said, it really reminds me of some stellar mushroom journeys where you've been able to peel back that facade of basically just wade through all the bullshit that you tell yourself, wade through all of the nonsense and bullshit that the ego constructs in order to really navigate this crazy matrix that we live in. It does take a lot of ego to get through this crazy financial capitalist, consumerist, ism society, whatever it is that we've built for ourselves. But beyond the ego, man, there's this we all have a place in the cosmos. And when you experience that, when you understand and know that, like viscerally, when you have that knowing of that, man, it really, really, really does reset your existence,
Does it reset your reality? Does it redesign your reality?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. I've always thought of mushrooms and LSD as the reset. Aaron and I have always said that. It's the reset button, the cosmic reset button. Because it takes you out of your comfort zone completely. And it's going to peel your wig back, and you're going to get a dump of information that's going to overwhelm your senses, literally. Your pupils are going to dilate and let more light in. And it's really interesting to think about light and letting more light into your eyes, and how that brightens up your future and brightens up your outlook on the future. I know you and I have read a lot of studies of, people with PTSD and them doing microdosing of psilocybin to help people with PTSD and other forms of depression to kind of battle it. And that's interesting because I know that it's dilating their pupils. I know that it's letting more light in, but I know they're microdosing them at a level that they're not tripping out, hallucinating, trying to get through their day. But it's letting in more light. And it's funny because in the light, I think about this all the time. In the morning, I open the door, I let my dogs out. What do? They run to the light and lay down, right? They go lay in the light and absorb the light and warm up their body. And they always come in, man. The sun is so bright. There's steam coming off of my deck because it's melting the ice or whatever, and they're laying there in that. And then after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, man, they come inside and they're so hyper and they're so full of light, and life. It's really interesting. And the whole metaphor was opening your pupils and dilating your pupils and letting more light in to your brain and to your mind, and how that changes your mental state. And it's just really, these are the kind of thoughts I have and wonder, why don't they study, photon energy and stuff, and how is this affecting? Is it the light? Is it the psilocybin? Is it a combination of all those things? I don't know, but I agree with you. It's a great reset button, and it's a great time of year to do it too. If you can find a babysitter for the kids,
Grandma.
Yeah, right. That's coming up.
Yeah, my mother actually comes in tonight, so the games are about to begin.
Oh, see, cool, man. You got to get that. I know your mom. You got good. And Dylan and I, just so you know, yet again, another synchronicity. Dylan's mother's name is Linda. And can you guess what my mom's name is?
No. Say it ain't so, Jeff.
I know.
Dun,
so
dun,
crazy.
Dun. What is it?
And then Linda.
Okay. Get out.
No way.
No way.
And then my mom always thought it was great because she would be visiting in Costa Rica and she'd hear our friends talking to us and they'd be like, "Oh, que linda." And she'd be like, turn. And she's like, "Are they saying my name?" I was like, "No, they're saying beautiful." And she was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, your name means beautiful in Spanish." Really interesting.
Yes. Linda. Que linda mai. Que linda mai. Well, shoot, man. Here it is. It's the 11th hour. 12th hour or whatever of the of 2017, man. It has been a crazy year, man. So much to be thankful for. no matter what side of the circumstances you're on. But man, so much going on, man. If you're still here and you're still got a smile on your face somehow, it's kudos to you.
I mean, here we are recording our last show here, and we did a lot of if nothing else, we figured out how to use a webcam and a Yeti mic.
It's funny you say that. Right as you say that, your audio gets all jacked up, man. Your audio is all screwed up at the very end of the Skype call. So who knows where it all goes from here.
Everybody's trying to Skype right now. Tis the season for Skyping.
Cool, man. All right, well, let's sign out here. This has been Redesigning Reality. I'm Dylan Charles here with Jeff Anthony. Check out some of our work. Jeff is the author of the book, which I don't have on my desk right now, Cosmic Wizard, A Journey from Outer Rage to Inner Sage. You definitely want to check that out. It's an instant classic. It's already an award-winning book, too. Let's not forget. And some of my work can be found at wakingtimes.com. You can find us at redesigningsreality.com, and we're on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Mr. Jeff, do you have anything to say to take us out of here?
Just, stay on the path and don't be too hard on yourself. And yeah, man, have a Merry Christmas, and let's kick off an awesome New Year.
All right, man. Peace to that. Thank you, brother.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening. Next time, out.
You've been listening to Redesigning Reality with Jeff Anthony and Dylan Charles.
Mukabanya,